Then next is a very important one, number 66. Mark this as very important. Question normally comes on this point. Services provided, A clause, by. Now here you have to remember two things, focus on two things, by and to, means who is giving the service and to whom the service is given, who is the supplier and who is the recipient. These are the two important points. So first point is by an educational institution to its students, faculty and staff. So who is the service provider? The educational institution. And who are the service receivers? Means the recipients, either the students or the faculty, the teachers who are working there, and the staff. Okay, students, faculty and staff are the three people who are getting the service. And who is the person giving the service? The educational institution. So let us first see the definition of educational institution. So come below that and you will find the definition there. Okay, can you find it? Very good. Now see who all are included in the definition of educational institution. So it says it means an institution providing services by way of preschool education, means nursery, kindergarten, and education up to higher secondary school or equivalent, that is HSC. So this is nursery to HSC. So all the nurseries, the kindergartens, they are exempt from GST, and in the sense that whatever service they give to their students. So students means those small kids, right? So and I just heard some other day somebody was telling me that his son is going to this nursery, the kindergarten, normally these days called as the play schools, and you know how much they charge? 1 lakh per annum. And how many months they teach? Around 8 months. So 8 months of play school, and the fees was 1 lakh per kid. So I said, are you kidding? He said, no, this is the fees, and this is a normal level of play school. If you go to the higher ones, they charge anything round about 2.5 lakhs, even 3 lakhs. I said, yeah, this is good. Let's stop teaching CA courses and start a kindergarten. Yeah, they are more paying, more remunerative. Here, so much of trouble and so much of laws and amendments and all of these things. And how much do we get? 10-12,000 per student. And there it is, 1 lakh per student. But of course, for 8 months period. But I think I must look into it. Okay, but don't worry, this is a joke. So just to remember, nursery to HSC level of all schools are totally exempt. So whatever fees they charge from their students is totally exempt. Secondly, any service that they might give to their teachers, like teacher training programs and all, they will also be exempt. And even for the running like school bus and all, that will be exempt. And also the staff. So any service given to students, faculty or staff, exempt. Number 2, education as a part of curriculum for obtaining a qualification recognized by any law for the time being in force. Recognized by any law for the time being in force. Recognized by law for the time being in force. Which law? The Indian law. Okay, not the foreign laws. It is Indian law. Even ICAI course, the CA course, is recognized by the law. ICAI Act of 1949, na? Yes. So that is also exempt. So your CA course, when you pay the fees to the institute for enrollment for the course, like when you pass your when you originally joined CPT program or nowadays called as foundation program, you paid fees, that is not chargeable to GST. Later on you paid fees for your intermediate, not chargeable to GST, and the fees paid for final, again not chargeable to GST. Okay, so because it is a part of curriculum, for obtaining a qualification, now they have not mentioned which qualification, it can be any qualification, it can be a degree program, but obviously this is above HSC, so above HSC can be a degree program, a diploma program, a PG program, post graduation, and so on and so forth. It can be anything, but which is recognized by law for the time in force. Okay, means it should be recognized by UGC, the University Grants Commission, the course itself, or AICTC. There are several bodies in India who have the power to authorize any course. So your normal college fees, university fees, they are all exempt from GST. But if it is a private university, these days there are many private colleges and private universities who give their own degrees, they are not recognized by law, then those will be taxable. Okay, private degree courses will be taxable. Like I may start my own academy, Farooq Huq's Academy, giving training programs in computer accounting and auditing and taxation and so on and so forth. But I'll give my own diplomas, I'll give my own certificates. Then those programs will be taxable. And secondly, all private tuitions, like right now I'm giving you tuition, I'm giving you this lecture, so this is taxable. All private tuitions are taxable. Okay, only education as part of curriculum is exempt. So part of curriculum means the college fees will be exempt, but not private tuition fees. Private tuitions are taxable. Thirdly, education as a part of approved vocational education course. One more thing before we go ahead. What about foreign university courses launched in India, like CPA program, CFA program? Now they may be recognized in US by their laws, but not by our laws. So if somebody runs those programs in India, if their institute comes and runs the program in India, will it be taxable? Yes, because it is not recognized by law in India. Those institutions are not established by law in India, so hence they will be taxable. Okay, so that was also one point to be remembered. So which are taxable courses? Private tuitions taxable, like Farooq classes taxable. Number two, any kind of diploma program, certificate program which is not recognized by law will be taxable, and foreign university courses launched in India will also be taxable. Okay, so three main points to remember there from taxability point of view. The next is vocational education course. Now what is vocational education course? So let's see that also. They have defined it. And before going to this definition of vocational education course, there is one more point, fourth point, so we will also see that. For removal of doubts, it is clarified that the central and state educational boards shall be treated as educational institution for the limited purpose of providing services by way of conduct of examination to students. Means CBSE, Central Board of Education, CBEC, what do we call it? CBSE, CBSE course, Central Board and state boards, the courses run by them. Now they are the governing bodies basically, right? The state boards, every state has got their own boards, like we have got Maharashtra board, you must have got your own boards, Tamil Nadu board, Karnataka board, and so on and so forth. Gujarat board, Madhya Pradesh board, Uttar Pradesh board, of course. And then there is central board. So they will also be called as educational institution only for limited purpose, and that is when they give service to students for conduct of exams. Means this is a service that they give to students, conduct of exam service to students, and they may charge for it, examination fees. So this exam fees charged by the central board or the state board directly will also be exempt. Okay, that will also be exempt. But if they give any other service, then they will be taxable. Like they charge money from the schools. Yes, this board charges money from schools for registration. So that will be chargeable to GST. So if they give any kind of other service, it will be taxable. But if the service is examination to students, conduct of examination to students, then it is exempt. So only one service is exempt for them, for the board itself. Okay, understood? Very good. And for the other three, the first three category of, that is up to HSC, then all the universities and colleges and vocational education ones. Those three, the first three ones, are exempt for all services given to their students, faculty and staff. Okay, now let's see what are these vocational education courses. So that definition is also given. It means a course run by ITI, Industrial Training Institute, in short we call them as ITIs, or Industrial Training Centers, that is ITC, affiliated to National Council for Vocational Training, in short NCVT, or State Council for Vocational Training, means SCVT, offering courses in designated trades notified under Apprentice Act of 1961. So these programs, vocational education courses, do not give any kind of a degree. They don't give any degree. It's just a certificate. You are certified as a mobile repairer. So what these people do is, they give training in any kind of vocation, like you want to start your mobile repair shop. So how to repair a mobile? So there is a course run by ITI for mobile repairing people. So you go, you learn that how to repair a mobile, and then you go and start your own small shop. Okay, then welder training, how to do welding, then plumber training, carpenter training. So all these kinds of trainings are given by these ITIs and ITCs. So you can also start an ITI or an ITC, but it has to be affiliated to. So if you start on your own, then it will be taxable. But if you get this affiliation from whom? Either the NCVT or the SCVT. So every state has got their own departments, SCVTs, so you get registered with them, or the national one, National Council for Vocational Training, either or. Okay, and then you run the program, it will be exempt from GST. Second is modular employable skill course. These are also skill oriented courses, which can be training in marketing, training in sales, and so on and so forth. Approved by National Council for Vocational Training, that is again NCVT. Run by, so here SCVT is not covered, this is the central government's institute, National Council for Vocational Training. Run by a person registered with the Director General of Training, Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. So there is this ministry, and if you want to start your own academy here, you can do it. First you get registered with Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. So you get registered yourself with the DGT, Director General of Training in the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, and then you can start your courses. So the courses will be as approved by NCVT. So NCVT has got its whole list of courses which you can start. So you can start any one of them or more of them, but the requirement is you are registered with DG. If you do that, then your courses will become exempt from GST. Right? So it's like that. So this is definition of educational institution. Okay, so how many people are covered? Let's revise. Number one, from kindergarten, nursery to HSC, all schools are exempt, which may be central schools, which may be CBSE board schools, it can be state board, CBSE board, what we call as international boards, IB, anything exempt. Number two, college, universities giving degrees approved by law in India. Okay, Indian colleges and universities. Number three, skill oriented courses, which can be either of these two, vocational education courses. And the fourth one is the CBSE or the state board itself, when they conduct exams for students, that conduct of exams is exempt from GST. Okay, then come back. So this was the first point, by an educational institution to its students, faculty or staff. Okay, then next is clause AA, again by an educational institution by way of conduct of entrance examinations against consideration in the form of entrance fee. So if this is a school and it conducts its normal annual exams, they will come in this clause A itself. But this is entrance exams, like you have got all these entrance exams, engineering entrance exams and CA entrance exams, CPT, foundation and so on and so forth. So if an education institution is appointed by these people who conduct exam as a center, so they take charges, they take entrance fee for giving their infrastructure for the purpose of conduct of exam basically. So whatever entrance fee they charge for the purpose of entrance examinations, whether it is of some other institute or their own, like Symbiosis is there, so they conduct their own entrance exams for their own colleges, right? So all those will be exempt. So here you can write some of them, like what we call these days CAT is there for management entrance, then CPT, then engineering entrance are called these days as, what do they call this? AIEEE. Earlier they used to be called as AIEEE, nowadays they are called as, I don't know, whatever, entrance exams. So whatever you remember, you write them. So all these entrance exams which are there. So any educational institution which charges entrance fee for the purpose of conducting the entrance examinations will also be exempt. Now the reason for writing it separately is that these people are not its students right now. They are yet to become the students. If it is conducted for the students who are already registered students, then it will come under A. But if it is done for outside people who are yet to become students, then it will be covered by AA. And then clause B. Now clause B is the reverse thing. To an educational institution. Means here the service provider, the supplier is someone else who is giving service to an educational institution. Okay, so here it says that 5 kinds of services. How many? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 services which are given by anyone to an educational institution will be exempt. And then we have got different types of educational institution. And then there is a matrix. Match the following, which we'll see, don't worry. So see, first is transportation of students, faculty and staff. Transportation service. Whose transportation? Student, faculty and staff. So I am a bus operator. Farooq Haq is a bus operator. He has got 1500 buses. And I have given these buses to various schools. So depending upon, I have a contract with Centrepoint School, I have contract with DPS, I have contract with this school and that school and Reliance School and this school and that school. A lot of schools are there in my city. So I supply buses to all these schools with their names written on the buses, DPS and this and that and whatever. And what I do is, I don't charge money from students, okay? Important point to remember. I don't charge money from students. I have no contract with students. I have a contract with the school. Very important point. For the exemption, your contract should be with the school. Okay? So I have a contract with school, DPS school, and I am supplying 50 buses to them. I charge money from the school. I will bill the school and I will take money from the school. School may charge money from the students, but I will bill the school. Okay, I will make invoice in the name of school. I have a contract with school. So I am giving service to the educational institution of transportation of their students and faculty and staff. So then it will become exempt from GST. Understood? So that is the first one, transportation. Number 2 is catering. Catering service for their students, of course. Who will eat? The students and faculty and staff, of course. They will also eat. And principal can also eat, so that's fine. Not a problem. So I am providing catering service, including the midday meal schemes of the government. There are midday meals, okay, which are sponsored by the government for the government schools, basically. The poor category schools, the government schools. So the amount that I charge is exempt. But again, important point to note, I should not charge money from the students. So this is not a canteen service. In canteen, what happens is that you sell your products to students directly. So running a canteen is taxable because you sell to students samosas and vada paos and whatnot, idlis and sambar and all. So that will be taxable. Running a canteen is different. Here I am providing catering service to the school. So I supply food to the school and school will run its canteen. School's employees will then sell it to their students. That is exempt. School giving food service to students is exempt. But if I as an outsider give food to the students directly, it will be taxable. So I have to enter into contract with the school. So I'll supply 2000 plates of samosas every day to the school. And then school will sell it to its students. So then when I supply to school, that supply will be exempt. Understood? Good. Then security service, providing guards, whether armed or not, as the case may be, depending upon students. If they are hooligans, then we'll provide armed guards. Otherwise, we'll provide normal guards. So security. Then cleaning, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, so we'll provide cleaning service to the school, or housekeeping services performed in such educational institution. Housekeeping means upkeep of the school. Then services relating to admissions to or conduct of examination by such institution. So this is admission. One is admission service and second is examination service. So what happens is that educational institutions, what we call as, give the commission to people who provide students. So that is technically called as admission service. So schools will not take those interviews and all from students. They will hire that work to an outside agency like Farooq Haq. So what Farooq Haq will do? Farooq Haq will take interviews of students and then give admission. Give admission means recommend the students to whom admission should be given to the school, and then school will give them admission. So I am providing admission service. I will screen the students, I will test them, and I will make a final list and give it to the school. And of course for that I will charge a sum. And in fact for colleges it's a good business, you know. Admission service is a good business for colleges because especially for MBA colleges, they charge huge amount of fees, 5 lakh, 10 lakh. and they give very good commission to these agencies who provide students to them. Almost 10%, like 50,000, 1 lakh per student is what we get, though I don't do that work. But I got an offer once. There was a college in Pune, and somehow they came to know that I conduct these coaching classes for CA students in Nagpur, and a lot of Nagpur students go to Pune for MBA. So they called me and they said that if you send students to us, you will get good commission. I said no. But I could have said yes, and I could have just recommended students the name of that college, and they will go there and join the college, and I'll get my commission. Anyways, so that is admission. All these examples are just for remembering, okay? So for admission. Second is the conduct of examination. These days, even the education institutions don't have enough hands to conduct exams and then check all the papers and all. So what they will do is they will hire outside agencies like Farooq. Yes, for conduct of examination. So that service which I give to the school for conduct of examinations for their students will be exempt from GST. So I can provide admissions, I can conduct examination. Okay. And last is supply of online educational journals or periodicals. These days all the journals and periodicals have become online, like science journals and current affairs journals and periodicals which are there, lot of magazines. So if we provide online, not offline, online, then it will be exempt. So these are the 5 services that we have seen. Now the question arises, will all these 5 services given to any kind of educational institution will be exempt? That is, if I give these services to a school, will it be exempt? If I give these services to a college, will it be exempt? If I give these services to a vocational education center, will that be exempt? All of them will be exempt? No. So here the point is that not all services are exempt for all the kinds of educational institutions. So then which one is exempt for which kind of educational institution? Let's see. So there are a few provisos, and these provisos define this thing. Let's see. So it says, first proviso, provided that nothing contained in sub item 1, 2 and 3 of item B. So this is B, this is 1, 2, 3. Nothing contained in these 3 shall apply to an educational institution other than an institution providing service by way of preschool education and up to HSC or equivalent. So what that means? Now the proviso is a negative language. So this is a negative sentence. We have to make it positive to understand. What it says? That these first 3 categories that we have seen, 1, 2 and 3. Okay. These 3 are exempt only when it is provided to a school up to HSC, means nursery to HSC. So here you write down KG, kindergarten for short purpose, to HSC. So if these 3 services are given, indirectly what it means, if any of these 3 services is given to a college or university or a vocational education center, it will be taxable. Okay, it will be taxable. Like transportation service given to college. There are a lot of engineering colleges also, which are in the outskirts of the city. I have given few buses to them also. Yeah, I have given few buses to engineering colleges also. That will be chargeable to tax. And if I give buses to school up to HSC or primary or secondary or up to HSC, then it is exempt. Okay. Then catering. If I provide catering service to school, it is exempt. If I provide catering service to college, it will be taxable. Engineering college, it will be taxable. Okay. Similarly, security, cleaning and housekeeping. So first 3 category of services are exempt only for the first category of educational institution, that is KG to HSC. Clear? No doubt? Very good. Then let's see the second proviso. Second proviso says that provided further that nothing contained in sub item 5 of item B shall apply to an institution providing service by way of preschool, education up to HSC, and education as a part of vocational educational course. Means this item 5, online educational journal or periodicals, if we provide this service to a school, then it is not exempt, it is taxable. Similarly, if I provide these online journals to a vocational education institution, it will be taxable. So that means the exemption is only if I supply this service to the category B education institution, that is the college and universities. Okay, so this item number 5 is only exempt, means only applicable when I provide it to colleges, universities who provide approved programs, approved degree programs. Okay, so this is only exempt if provided to colleges and universities. If I provide online educational journals to these two categories, then it will be taxable. Now the fourth point is left in between. So this fourth point which is left, that is admission or examination. Admission service or examination service. This is applicable to which kind of educational institutions? All educational institutions. All the three categories. So this will come in all three categories. That is KG to HSC, then colleges and universities also, and vocational education training centers also. So government gives exemptions, but at the same time they make it complex. They don't keep it simple. And the reason is simple. Because if they make law simple, then how will the question come in the examination, right? Questions will also become simple, so anyone will become a CA, which they don't want. But no matter how they make complicated, I am here to make it simple for you, and you will have no problem in the exam, don't worry. So you remember these points? First three are only for the first category of educational institution, that is KG to HSC, not for the others. Fourth one is for all, and fifth one is only for college and universities, not for the other two. Beauty. So now you can remember, and just by remembering it theoretically will not solve any problem for you, huh? You have to remember it in such a way that when the question comes in the exam, we'll see the questions in the question bank. So when the question comes, you should be able to apply this. So what you have to learn in this whole list of exemption is application skills. Question will not come, what kind of services are exempt? No. Question will come that this is the person who is giving these services. Now you have to tell him how many are taxable and how many are exempt. Next one. Let's move ahead now. Services provided to a recognized sports body. This is again very interesting, and you will find some question on this also in the exam. So mark this also as important. To recognized sports body, okay, by an individual as a player, by an individual as a player. So Virat Kohli is a player, he gives service to BCCI, okay, but we'll see whether he is exempt or not. Then referee, you can be a referee, you can be an umpire, you can be a coach or team manager. Now remember these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. What kind of service you are giving? As a player, as a referee, as an umpire. Now these two are similar terms, referee and umpire. In football we call him as a referee, in cricket we call him as umpire. So one who adjudicates the game is called either as a referee or as an umpire. Then coach, so you are a coach, or team manager. Team manager. Remember these 5 words very carefully. So one time the question came in the exam, it said that you are a commentator. You provide service of commentary to the recognized sports body. Like BCCI has its own commentators, Sunil Gavaskar, Ravi Shastri, and so on and so forth. So many people are there as commentators. Vinu Mankad and lot many. Now I don't follow the game since last many years, so I don't remember much. But there are commentators. Shrikant is also there. So these people who provide service of commentating to the recognized sports body, they get fees from BCCI. Will that be exempt from GST? No. So commentary service is not exempt. It will be taxable. So Ravi Shastri getting paid from BCCI will be chargeable to GST. Okay. So commentary service is not exempt. One example. And then there can be so many other examples. For participating in sporting event organized by the recognized sports body. So it should be organized, the event should be organized by recognized sports body. Second is another registered sports body. Oh, so one registered sports body giving service to another registered sports body, that is also exempt. So if this is inter se, one sports body giving service to another sports body, that will be exempt. Like you have federation, so there is a state level federation and there is a central level federation. So the central federation is organizing some sporting event and the stadium which is used is of the state federation. So central federation will make payment to this state federation for providing service. That will be exempt. Now comes the important definition. Who all are recognized sports bodies? Let's see. Number 1, Indian Olympic Association. So all are Olympic players or players who are registered with Indian Olympic Association. So when they go and play in any event organized by Indian Olympic Association and they get paid for it, it is exempt from GST. Okay. Then SAI, Sports Authority of India. In short, this is IOA, this is SAI. We have got so many sports federations in India that they also don't understand as to who comes where, and therefore we have this state of affairs of our sports. Apart from cricket. Cricket because there is a lot of money there. The National Sports Federation, recognized by the Ministry of Sports and Youth Affairs and its affiliate federations, the state level federations and all, district federations. The National Sports Promotion Organizations, recognized by Ministry of Sports and Youth Affairs. International Olympic Association, again IOA, or a federation recognized by International Olympic Association, or a federation or a body which regulates a sport, or a federation or body which regulates a sport at international level. So here you will have a lot of them, like FIFA for football, then ICC for cricket and other sports, whatever bodies may be at international level, and its affiliated federations or bodies regulating as sport. No, it is a sport in India. So if we talk about FIFA, so FIFA is the international body, so its Indian affiliate, the Indian affiliate, I don't know, I think it's Indian Football Association, I think. Then for ICC, of course, it is BCCI. And if it's Kabaddi, then there can be some Kabaddi association or institute or whatever. So these people are also covered here. So BCCI, ICC, FIFA, IFA are covered. Then there is Indian Volleyball Association and there is International Volleyball Federation and so on and so forth. So international ones and their Indian counterparts, the affiliate members. So both are covered here. They are called as recognized sports body. So remember, BCCI is a recognized sports body. So if a player, so who can be a player now? Mahendra Singh Dhoni, Virat Kohli, and so on and so forth. There are so many players. I don't remember much. Then referees, people who become referees on these games. Then football, so referees of football. Umpires, coach. Who is the coach of Indian cricket team right now? I don't know. But you are young people, so you may know. I am also young. I am young. I am 20 years of age. But I am so busy in so many other things now, so I am unable to catch up with my cricket. Though I used to play cricket some years before, and I was a fast bowler. Do you know? Fast bowler and a hard hitter. So hard hitter means I used to come on that 5th or 6th or 7th position. You know, this kind of hitting, all the not the classy style, but all the sixers. Okay. So those were good days, good old days, nostalgic days. So anyway, so I was a player, but not of BCCI. I was a gully cricket player. So any individual is a player. So you write all these names. Come on, don't focus on my story. Write these names. Players. Who is there? Virat Kohli. Referee, umpire, coach, if you remember the names. Team manager, if you remember the name. But also write down. Commentators are taxable. Sunil Gavaskar, Ravi Shastri, they are taxable. Krishna Machari, Shrikant, taxable. Good. So you'll remember this point? Excellent. Then let's go to next one. 69. Again education one. Come back to education. So we saw 2 points in education, 66 and 67, and then 69 also. Now this speaks about any service provided by National Skill Development Corporation, NSDC, set up by the Government of India. So what NSDC does, it runs a lot of skill development courses. And the purpose of this organization is for that only, to develop skills in the youth of this country. Because nowadays government has even the government has recognized that theory based education is not of any use anymore. And I am a great propagator of this. If you give me 5 minutes to explain, but don't leave CA after 5 minutes, okay? But this is so important, I'll tell you. This is a very important point. Understand this point very clearly. I'm very serious. CA, CS, engineering, these are all theory based courses right now in our country. And these courses were designed some 50 years back, and they have been tweaked from time to time, but the major portion remains the same, right? Like in your case, just imagine what you are taught. All the theory, accounting theory, costing theory, that how the accounting is to be done, how the costing is to be done, how financial management, what are the formulas, and so on and so forth. So we are being trained in all these things, okay? But when you get into the industry, when you go for jobs, everything is computerized. Everything is computerized. You go into a big multinational company, everything is computerized. If you go into an industry like Tata Steel or somewhere, everything is computerized. All the accounting systems have been computerized. There are big ERP packages like SAP, Oracle, so on and so forth. Even if you go for banks, everything is computerized. So actually your knowledge is of no use. Your knowledge has no use. It has no value. What you have to do, suppose you get a job in a bank. Earlier in our times when we became CA, there was no computerization, so we had to sit there, apply our brains and the knowledge that we had possessed as a student to see the files of the clients and then decide whether to give loans or not. We had to decide. A CA used to sit there as a credit manager and see the file of the client, the project report, evaluate the project report, see the plus minuses, the pros and cons, and then apply his mind to decide whether loan should be given or not. What happens today? There is a computer system. You have to just enter the data into that system. The system will evaluate and tell you the credit score. And then according to the score, you will decide to give the loan or not. Are you using your knowledge, your real knowledge? No. You are just a data entry person. So what is happening? That all the jobs in the world are getting converted from knowledge base to software base. You should know how to run that software. You shouldn't possess the knowledge, the background knowledge. If you know how to run the software, you get a job. So what the banks are doing? They are not hiring CAs, because if you hire a CA, he'll demand a salary of 1 lakh rupees a month. And banks say that this is data entry job. Any BCom guy can do it with a little bit of knowledge of the software, who can be paid like 25,000 a month. So why they will hire a CA? So the jobs, the core jobs of chartered accountants are getting diminished because they don't need chartered accountants. Industry needs a software guy who understands the software, who can run the software. That's it. Understanding my point? So what is important right now? Even in engineering, you are seeing such a big impact. The engineers are given jobs of data entry. They are given jobs of back office operations, call centers, so on and so forth. Yes, because everything is computerized. You have learned mechanical engineering, but you are not going to build any mechanics. You are not going to build engines. Everything is computerized. Full automated systems are there. The whole car manufacturing is done automated. You don't have to do anything, not even a screw. So then what is the purpose of your engineering? Nothing. So our education systems have become outdated, absolutely outdated. And if you, after hearing this whole lecture of 10 minutes, if you want to take advantage, of course you will want to take advantage of this whole mismatch between the education and the industry, go for skills. Enhance your skills. Now I am not saying leave CA or CS, you have to do it, you complete it. But at the same time, focus on skills, focus on ERP, focus on SAP, focus on Oracle, focus on the systems that are being used in the industry. Just a CA degree will not fetch you anything. Dangerous situation. I'm not deterring you. I'm not telling you to leave CA, but think. Do CA. Of course, degree matters. But apart from that, do this also. Get skills. Get skills. Very important. If you don't have skills, you will not get a job. We have been seeing in past few years, even the merit students are not getting good jobs. And even if they get jobs, they are doing data entry. So if you want to get good jobs, if you want to excel, then you should be experts of systems, not experts of bookish knowledge. That is the conclusion. I hope you understand now and you will take due action on that. So let's come back. We'll do our job. Let's study. So first one is NSDC, National Skill Development Corporation. So just the name came, so I talked about it. So this NSDC is primarily incorporated for this purpose only, for developing skills. So they run a lot of courses, software courses and this and that. But they don't run it directly. They make these courses, they make the format of the courses, then they appoint different agencies to run these courses. This agency can be run by me as Farooqa Classes. So I'll get affiliated to NSDC, I'll get a license from them, and then I can run the course which is designed by NSDC. Okay, and I can run that course. Then NSDC will also appoint a test agency which is called as the assessment agency. So they will appoint one agency as a training partner, clause D you can see, training partner, who will train the students. on the course which is made by NSDC. The course will be designed by NSDC and a training partner will run that course. Now who will test those students? So the training partner cannot test because he will give a lot of marks and make students pass. No. So assessment agency is another one which is appointed by NSDC to go and assess, to go and take tests of these students. So these are the two players who will be below NSDC. So NSDC will appoint assessment agencies, NSDC will also appoint training partners. Training partners will provide training to students. The assessment agency will conduct the exams and give results. So the services given by all of them in relation to these programs of NSDC will be totally exempt from GST. Okay, completely exempt. And then there is another one, Sector Skill Council, approved by National Skill Development Corporation. So NSDC is working on the national level. Now they appoint sector skill corporations across India to do the same exercise, to do the same thing. So even they are exempt. Okay. Then assessment agency approved by Sector Skill Council or the NSDC, and training partner approved by NSDC or the Sector Skill so and so. And here you put a full stop in point number D, and then it continues that service tax exemptions to be continued in GST as decided by GST Council in relation to so and so. This is the same thing. Okay. So this part is the explanation part actually. It writes the same thing. So you need not study. Then moving ahead, another one, number 70. This is also in relation to education. Services of assessing bodies empaneled centrally by DG of T, Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, by way of assessments under Skill Development Initiative Scheme. So the Ministry of Skill Development has got another scheme, Skill Development Initiative, SDI scheme, and they appoint the assessment agencies to go and take tests. So they are also exempt. Then there is another one, services provided by training providers, that is project implementation agencies. They are called as project implementation agencies under Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gramin Kaushalya Yojana under the Ministry of Rural Development by way of offering skill or vocational training courses certified by NCVT. So it is all about skill, but government has set up so many agencies here and there and divided the workforce and said that you go and train the people in skills. So all of them are exempt. So many schemes are being launched. In foreign they make one scheme and make it happen. In India we make schemes happen and then nothing happens. Sorry. Okay. So in foreign they make one scheme and they run the programs. In India we run the schemes and no programs. Electrical disturbance. Okay, next, again relating to education. Services provided to the central government, state government, union territory under the training program for which total expenditure is borne by the central government, state government, union territory administration. This can be any kind of service relating to education which is given by us. So means if Aruka classes is doing some training activity for which complete money is paid by the government. So that means whom am I training? The government people itself. So I am conducting programs for the CBDT for training their officers. I am conducting programs for CBIC. I am conducting programs for any kind of government department and I am getting paid for it. So who is paying me? The government itself. state government, central government, or the union territory administration. So that will be totally exempt. So finally education is over. All the training and education is done with. Great. So let's move ahead. Next one is an interesting one. Very interesting one. Very big industry in the making, and that is of course in medical science, not in commerce stream. Services provided by cord blood banks. They are called as cord blood banks by way of preservation of stem cells or any other service in relation to such preservation. This is a very upcoming industry in biology, in medical sciences, and that is stem cell research. A lot of research is going on here. And what happens that when a baby is born, a newborn baby, the umbilical cord is preserved. Umbilical cord, everyone knows, we have studied biology, which connects the mother to the baby, and the food and everything goes through that, the umbilical cord. So that is normally detached and then thrown away, but now it is being preserved because it is found that this umbilical cord contains certain cells which are called as stem cells, and these stem cells are very important if they are preserved. Later on in the life of that child, when he grows up, and if any organ malfunctions, if his liver or kidney or anything malfunctions, or even the heart vessels, you can develop these organs in a scientific laboratory, in the lab, by using those stem cells. So a lot of research is going on. So using the stem cells of that child which were preserved at the time of his birth, you can make organs. You can make skin, you can make all the different organs, and then replace the malfunctioning organs. Such a beautiful thing. So then in 50 years from now, you will not need donors. You will not need kidney donors and liver donors and this and that. The umbilical cord cells, the stem cells preserved, can be used to develop the organs and then fitted as spare parts. Great. So there are these banks which offer the service of preservation. So they have deep freezers where these stem cells are preserved for a lifetime against payment of fee. That fee is exempt from GST. Next, continuing with the healthcare. Healthcare services by clinical establishment. Now you remember in the last classes we had seen one point veterinary centers were exempt. Yeah, you remember veterinary centers were exempt. So all the doctors who provide services to animals, the veterinary clinics and hospitals, they are exempt. Now let's talk about human hospitals. So let's see. Healthcare service by a clinical establishment or an authorized medical practitioner or paramedics. Three people are there. So clinical establishment basically means a hospital. Okay. Authorized medical practitioner means individual doctor, the medical practitioner, or paramedics. Paramedics actually give services of first aid and all. They are trained to give first aid, and whenever some calamities occur, they go and treat people there. So, and save people, and so on and so forth. So they are called as paramedics. Okay. So services given by them are exempt. Services of a hospital, so you go and pay a huge bill to the hospital. These days the most costliest thing on earth is healthcare services. Now Prime Minister is doing some good thing about that. In the last budget they have announced some scheme for healthcare services called as Modi Care, but it has not yet been made practical, and in India it will be very difficult to make it really apply. Though in thought process it is a very good thing, but to make it apply it will be a huge task, because as compared again to foreign countries, in foreign the public healthcare system is well developed and private practitioners are few. Only the rich can afford them, and they can go. Otherwise, if you go to UK or you go to US, it is all about public health care. But in India, all of us know, nobody goes to public health care. Only the poor people go there. Any kind of middle class or the upper class, we have our private doctors. And these private doctors don't want to come in that because there are a lot of restrictions on costs. And private doctors say that we cannot give the service at this price. So there is a lot of tussle going on. Let's see what happens. Hopefully a good thing will happen. Something good should happen. Okay, so the first point, healthcare services. What is included in healthcare, we'll see the definition. Number 2, services provided by way of transportation of a patient in an ambulance. So ambulance service is also completely exempt. Ambulance is also exempt. And whether you carry a patient, now here patient means a live patient, but even if you carry the dead bodies, that is also exempt, that we saw in another clause. Then recognized system of medicines are, now this is also very important, because as they say, healthcare services by clinical establishment, authorized medical practitioner or paramedics, it has to be in the recognized system of medicines. And what are recognized systems of medicines? Allopathy. Allopathy means the normal doctors that we visit, MBBS, not the Munna Bhai MBBS, the normal MBBS or the MD and so on and so forth. All the medical colleges that we have in India are mostly allopathy based. Then homeopathy is also there. Homeopathy doctors are also covered. Ayurveda is also covered. Unani and Siddha. These are our old traditional ways of treatments. So they are also covered. So allopathy, homeopathy, Ayurveda, Unani and Siddha. But Tantric Babas are not covered. Tantric Babas are not covered. They also treat people of a lot of mental illnesses, as they say. I have not gone to any one of them, and I don't intend to go. But as I say, that's some kind of Devi comes and then they just beat the person with some the tree bells and all and whatever, I don't know, and they cure people. So Tantric Babas, or they do that Havan and all with the bones and the skull, that is not covered here. So those Babas will be taxable, okay, if they still exist in India, and they do. Now who is an authorized medical practitioner? Let's see. Means a medical practitioner registered with any of the councils of the recognized system of medicines. So which are the recognized system of medicines? These. Established or recognized by law in India, and includes a medical professional having the requisite qualification to practice in any recognized system of medicines in India as per the law for the timing in force. So a medical practitioner means one who is registered with the council, and even if he is not registered, like in CA, we may be registered members of our body ICI, or we may not be registered members, but we have passed CA exam. So everyone who becomes CA may not be registered. If you want to register, you can register. You have a registration number. If you don't want to register, you don't register. That is allowed, but you still remain a CA. Okay. So similarly, a medical professional may be registered or may not be registered, but he has passed the exams, he has the requisite qualification. So both are covered here. Both will get exemption. Now the very important definition, healthcare service. What is included and what is not. So one which is not will be taxable. Okay. Lot of students compliment my hair. This is, sir, you have good hair. I say yes, they are original, huh? So these are not the woven ones. These days you have that weaving, hair weaving and all, but these are original ones, and very few of I will not lie with you, but there are two three among the billions of hairs that are growing there, 2-3 which have become grey, and that is a good sign also, a sign of maturity, I think. Anyways, but not more than 2-3, okay, and you will not be able to recognize them, at least in the video. No, you will not. So I have good quality of hair, and they are all black, and they are natural. But these days lot of people become bald even while doing CA. If they take too much tension, they become bald, and then they go to those hair weaving centers where a lot of hairs are weaved and in the scalp, and they get the hair. That is artificial hair. A lot of teachers are also doing it. I'll not name them. But you can see so many teachers, and hair weaving and all goes on. So that is taxable. See, the reason was not to say anything about anyone. The reason was to give you an example of taxability, okay, so that you will remember. So hair weaving centers are taxable. Okay, let's see. So it means service by way of diagnosis or treatment. Now, very important was that diagnosis or treatment. Now you have got a lot of diagnostic centers also. They don't treat, but they will only diagnose the illness. That is the blood report, then your CT scan, heart scan, this scan, that scan, MRI, and all those centers are there. So their services will also be exempt. Diagnosis. So diagnostic centers are also exempt. And treatment, of course, means the hospitals. Or care. There are care centers also who take care of these sick people. They don't treat, but they take care. They are also exempt. Like they are called as hospice. We went to New Zealand last year in November, and we were just driving, and self-drive, of course. It's a beautiful country, and you must self-drive if you go to New Zealand. I'm an adventure crazy person, and I hope a lot of you are. So what we did was we took a car and we were self-driving. Now there are small towns. New Zealand, the biggest town in New Zealand has a population of say 1.5 to 2 lakhs. That is the biggest city. Then there are small towns, a town of 300, 400, 700 population. Yes, small towns, but well serviced. You will find everything there. Okay, so there was this town, Mata Mata. So we were going there, Mata Mata. And the importance of that town is that nearby to that city or the town, there is this place where Lord of the Rings was shot. Have you seen Lord of the Rings? In that Hobbit village? Yeah, so this was the place where that Hobbit village is there, and it's a big tourist destination. So we were to stay at this place called Mata Mata. So we were driving, and we had put the destination, the hotel address, in the Google Maps. So it took us to a beautiful building. There was a big garden, a small gate, so we went through the gate. Then there was a huge garden, beautiful roses, big size roses, very, very beautiful garden, and long and big trees. And then there was a small old building there, not building, but that wooden buildings that are there. So we went there. When we went inside, we couldn't find anyone. Normally when you go to now the hotels are also very small there, 10 bedrooms and 6 bedrooms and so on and so forth. Mostly people who have got their old homes, they have converted them into hotels likewise. So we went there, and we couldn't find a reception. So we went there looking for a reception. There were long galleries, nobody was there. And then there was this one small office kind of thing. So we went there, and a nurse was sitting there, means a person dressed as a nurse. So we said, okay, this is a new kind of uniform for a hotel employee. Anyways, we were quite positive, and we liked that place. It's a beautiful place. So when we went there and we asked that we have an appointment, we have a room booked. So she looked at us, room? She said, you are looking too young for this place. I said, okay, this is a compliment. So I said, no, I'm young, but I'm 20 years of age, so no problem, I can still stay. You have any restrictions? She said, yeah, we only take above 65. Huh? What's happening? So then she said, this is hospice. Hospice. What is an hospice? We have come to hotel. Then we showed the reservation. She said, no, this is not the place. You have come to the wrong place. So we just inquired that what is this hospice? So she told us that this is a care center for elderly people who are suffering from any kind of disease. And then she took us around in that place, and it was a beautiful place. I wish when I become old, and if I'm still there, and if I suffer from any disease, I should go there. Beautiful place. And they take so much care of the old people. There were a lot of old people, and such a beautiful place. That room with full glass window, and you can see the garden with a lot of roses and all, and a lot of roses were even kept inside the room, and beautiful rooms, and a lot of services being provided there. So we told her that, can't we stay here? Forget about that hotel. She said no. So anyway, we spent some time there with the old people, and then we moved. Anyways, the hotel was also very beautiful. So like that. So again, nostalgic. Let's come back. So care. Now you understand care. So I gave you this example. It was a practical example. Care. So diagnosis, treatment, care. Three things. For illness, of course. Injury, accidents and all. Deformity. Deformity means when a child is born with some kind of deformation. So you treat the child. So it cannot be called as illness. It is a natural deformity which can be treated. Abnormality. Again the same thing. Abnormal. Deformity means when the skull is damaged or something like that. Abnormality means any kind of the body functions which are not normally functioning. Physical or mental abnormality. Or pregnancy. In any recognized system of medicines, we just saw, in India of course, and includes services by way of transportation of patients to and from the clinical establishment, means the medical, that also we saw. Now important, but does not include hair transplant. So anyone going for hair transplant, you want to go to a hair transplant clinic, remember you have to pay GST. Or cosmetic or plastic surgery. So if you want to become an actor or an actress and you need to correct something on your face, you need a plastic surgery or a cosmetic surgery. So it will be taxable. So remember, three things are taxable. Hair transplant, cosmetic and plastic surgeries are taxable. Except when undertaken to restore or to reconstruct anatomy means the structure or functions of a body affected due to congenital defects, developmental abnormalities, injury or trauma. Important point. So if somebody suffers damage due to an accident, his bike skids and he crashes in some stationary object or something, and his skull is damaged, so he needs plastic surgery. His face is damaged, so after getting the treatment he needs plastic surgery to improve his face again. That plastic surgery or the cosmetic surgery or even the hair transplant, if his skull is damaged and the whole skull is being replaced, then he will need the hair transplant also on top of it. So if these three, the hair transplant, the cosmetic and the plastic surgery, are given to injured person or a trauma means accident, or it can be an injury, or it can be development abnormality. When a child is growing up, there is some abnormality. So if to cure that abnormality, some surgery is being done. Or congenital defects. Congenital defects means since childhood, since you are born, there is some defect, and then that defect is corrected by doing a plastic surgery or cosmetic surgery. then in that case it will remain exempt. Okay. So if it is due to congenital defects or developmental abnormalities or injury or trauma, accident cases, then it will remain exempt. But if you go just to beautification purposes, you want to become an actor or actress and your nose is long and your ear is tilted and your jaw is not good, and then you get it treated so as to become an actor or an actress or a model, that is for beautification, then remember that it will be taxable. Or to look young. Even the old people like Amitabh Bachchan and all, they go to cosmetic surgeons for different kind of surgery, skin surgery and all, to make them look young. That is taxable. Okay, then moving ahead, next one. Services provided by operators of the common biomedical waste treatment facility. Underline, common biomedical waste treatment facility to a clinical establishment by way of treatment of disposal of biomedical waste or the processes incidental thereto. Simple. There are agencies which provide the service, because the waste which comes out of the hospital is very dangerous, because it may contain a lot of viruses and fungal infections and so on and so forth, because that cotton and swabs and all which have been used on the patients, they are just disposed of. Now you cannot just go and dump it in a open yard, because then the viruses will have a good time, enjoy and infect others. So it has to be disposed of in a particular way. So there are agencies which collect this biodegradable waste, not biodegradable, biomedical waste, and process it, treat it, so as to remove all the viruses and fungal and everything, all the infections. So they treat it and then they dump it in a particular way so that it doesn't infect others. So if you are giving this kind of service, to whom? To the clinical establishment. So you will collect the waste from all the hospitals and then treat it. It will be exempt. Then next one is a very interesting one, number 76, and a very useful one. Sulabh Shauchalay. You have seen a lot of Sulabh Shauchalays. Sulabh Shauchalaya. The public urinals and bathrooms and washrooms and lavatories, or urinals or toilets, they are exempt. So services by way of public conveniences such as provision of facilities of bathroom, washroom, lavatories, urinal and toilets are exempt. So they take that 2 rupee, 1 rupee, 5 rupees, that is exempt from GST. You find them at various places inside the city, in metro stations and in common areas. Then services by an unincorporated body or a non-profit entity. This is also important. Unincorporated body or a non-profit entity. Now remember, in section 7 we had seen in the earlier discussions that services given by a non-profit body or unincorporated bodies to their members is also chargeable. Principle of mutual entity doesn't apply in GST. We had discussed that point. Mutual entity concept doesn't apply. So if a body, unincorporated association, gives a service to their own members, then that is also called as a taxable service, right? Very good. So in that there are few exemptions. What are these exemptions? Let's see. So it says, service by unincorporated body or a non-profit entity registered under any law for the time in force to its own members, by way of reimbursement of charges, or share of contribution. So let's see what these two things mean. Reimbursement of charges means that the association has done some expense on behalf of members, and then we divide it among the members and we recover it. So that will be called as reimbursement of charges. Expenses done by the association, the body, and then it is divided among the members and collected. That is one way. Or share of contribution means we'll collect money per month from our members, a fixed amount, and after collecting, that is after collecting the contribution, we'll incur the expense. So it can be both ways. Incur the expense, then divide and collect, or collect and then incur the expense. It can be both ways. Who are exempt? Number one, trade union. All the trade unions are exempt. And who are the members of the trade union? The employees. Employees of different organizations are the members. Number two, for the provision of carrying out any activity which is exempt from the levy of GST. So if the unincorporated body is giving a kind of service which is exempt under other clauses that we are seeing. So out of these 83 clauses, if the service given is exempt under any of these clauses, then the money collected from the members will also be exempt. Or up to an amount of 7,500 rupees per month per member is collected. Means the contribution or reimbursement is up to 7,500 per month per member. For sourcing of goods or services from a third person for the common use of its members in a housing society or a residential complex. Okay. So to understand this, you have to first think that you are staying in a housing complex. Do you stay in a housing complex? Factually, yes. Then you might be paying monthly maintenance charges to the society. You pay it? Yeah. I've got a flat in Pune, and though I don't stay there, but I pay something like 4,600 rupees per month as maintenance charges. So that amount which is collected by the society is exempt from GST. Okay, because it is less than 7,500 per month. So if the amount collected is up to 7,500 per month, means 7,500 or below, it will be totally exempt. And if it is more than 7,500 per month, then there are two interpretations. One says that up to 7,500 will be exempt, and over and above that will be taxable. Means if the amount collected is say 9,000, then 7,500 will be exempt and 1,500 will be chargeable to GST. That is one interpretation. Second interpretation is that full 9,000 will be taxable. Now there is no clarity from the government on this point. So different authors have different views. If the question comes in exam, you mention both the interpretations. Okay, up to 7,500 exempt, above that taxable, or the whole of it is taxable because it exceeds the limit. So write both you mentioned there that there are two interpretations on this point, 1 and 2. So what it means is, now let me explain. So this society collects this amount from us for the purpose of meeting common expenses. Common expenses include the maintenance of the whole building, then the keeping of guards, sanitation workers, and cleaning activities, maintaining the gardens and the swimming pool and the gymnasium and all other common facilities which are available in that society. So the amount is collected, and after collection all these expenses are incurred out of it on a common basis. So that is the purpose. So it will be totally exempt. So the sourcing is not for one particular person, right? The sourcing of goods or service is for common use. So then another question comes on this point in the exam, that what if the society is giving personal service to members? If it is giving personal service to members, like for example bill payments, electricity bill of my house, not the common bill of the society, no, not the common usage bill, individual bill, because I don't have time to go to electricity department and pay the bills and so on and so forth, and the water bill and this tax and that tax, municipal tax. So I say that society, you collect from me, I'll give it to you and you go and pay to the department, because you can collect from all the members. There are say 1,000 families living in this society, you collect from everyone and then go and pay. That much you can do. So they say, okay, we'll do it, but there will be a charge of 15 rupees over and above the bill amount. In that case, this amount of 15 rupees which is collected by the association or the society will be chargeable to tax, because that is a personal service, that is not a common service. Okay, so keep that in mind. Next one is 77A. Services provided by an unincorporated body. Unincorporated body means there is a association which is not incorporated under any law for the timing in force. It is not a company, okay, it is not a private, public, any kind of company. It is not incorporated. Or a non-profit entity, NGOs which are there, non-profit organizations, registered under any law for the timing in force, engaged in. Now NPO can be registered, like it can be registered under Societies Registration Act and so on and so forth. So either it is an unincorporated body or a non-profit entity registered under any law for the timing in force. Okay, engaged in activities relating to the welfare of industrial or agricultural or labor or farmers. Agricultural labor or farmers, not all kind of labor, agricultural labor. Sorry, industrial or agricultural labor or farmers. So labor can be industrial or agriculture, both. Industrial labor, one who works in factories; agricultural labor, those who work in the farms, or farmers themselves. So what it means is that if you form an organization which can be like a cooperative society for farmers, or producer company, in company law you must have studied producer company, which is for farmers, okay, farmers producer company, or for the labor who works there. There's an organization, a labor organization who works for the labor unions, you can say, labor unions. So they provide service to the labor, and they may charge some admission fee or annual fee, 200, 300 rupees, whatever they charge from their members. That will be totally exempt. Okay, so that is the first one. The labor unions will come here, and the cooperatives, the producer companies who work for the benefit of farmers. Number 2, promotion of trade, commerce, industry, agriculture, art, science, literature, culture, sports, education, social welfare, charitable activities, and protection of environment. My God, long list, huge list. Actually, it is good for you. The bigger the list, the lesser the scope of committing error in the exam. Because if it is not covered here, it will be covered here. So if you write exemption, you are right. Anyways, jokes apart, let's take some examples. Promotion of trade. So you have got a lot of trade associations, like you have got FICCI, Federation of Industry and Commerce in India, on the national scale. Then you have got NASSCOM for IT based companies, basically NASSCOM. Then you have got Vidarbha Industry Association, you have got Maharashtra Industries Association, and similarly in your city, in your place, there might be several such associations of trade people. Then we have got ICAI itself, which is of course a body, but we have got the associations also, CA associations, Chartered Accountants Associations, like there is one in Bombay, BCA, Bombay Chartered Accountants Association. So all these, then there is Indian Medical Association, then there is Architects Associations, so all professionals come here. Then commerce, industry, industrial associations, I already gave you example. Maharashtra Industries Association, Vidarbha Industry Association, Nagpur Industry Association, Petrol Pump Owners Association, Kirana Wala People's Association, lot Petrol Pumps Association. There are so many industry based associations. So all those trade, commerce, industry associations. Then agriculture, associations of farmers. Art, I don't remember any, but there can be. Science, literature, like they hold literature festivals, so there might be some association of literature, culture, sports, education. Educational associations are there. There are a lot of educational associations of teachers associations, principals associations, social welfare associations, charitable activities, and protection of environment. So if there is an unincorporated body which does these things, or an NPO who is doing any of these things, okay, for promotion of trade, commerce, they will be exempt if the money that they charge from their members, now this is the rider, this is the important point, to its own members against consideration in the form of membership fee up to an amount of 1000 per member per year. Means if the fees charged, membership fee charged, is less than 1000 per member per annum, then it is exempt. If it is more than 1000, then it is taxable. Okay, so if the fees exceeds 1000 per month per member per annum, not month, per annum, then it is taxable. Like I am a member of NASSCOM. Yes, our company, because we are into IT sector, IT education based, so we are registered. But you know what is the fees? More than 50,000 per annum. So then it is chargeable to GST. It will not be exempt. But if I am a member of some very poor association who charge only 500-600 rupees per annum, then it is exempt. But you will not find such associations. Anyways, so you have to just remember the point. Okay, good. And the definition of a residential complex is also given, means more than one unit. Complex means more than one unit. One means simplex, two means complex. So two or more means complex. Simple to remember. And you don't need to remember the definition of trade union, please. Then let's move ahead. Services by an artist. Services by an artist. So now let's become an artist. So there is Farooq Haq, artist. By way of performance. Performance. I'm performing. In folk. Folk means the local village, towns, they have their own folk. Traditional dances are called as folk dances. Or classical art forms. Now this we understand, classical art forms of music. So the classical art forms of music will include tabla, sitar, and etc, etc. There are a lot of them, but I'm not into it, so I don't remember much. Sarod is there, then tabla is there, then tabla has also various variations of tabla. So all the classical art forms, Indian classical art forms, not guitar and drums, no, the Indian classical art forms. Tabla, sitar, sarod, shehnai, bansuri, all those. Okay, so if you are expert in any of these, then you can give performances like Aman and Ayan. They played that sarod. And sitar, of course, we had the great Pandit Ravi Shankar, and now his daughter is there, Anushka Shankar. Tabla, of course, Ustad Zakir Hussain. And then you have got so many other players. Okay, so when they give performances, that is exempt. But I'll tell you there is one condition attached to it. Next is dance. So in dance, the folk dances are always there, the folk ones. And then folk dances means that dance of Assam and dance of Orissa and dance of West Bengal and folk dances. Plus the classical dances. Classical dances include the Bharatnatyam and Kuchipudi and so many others. In Maharashtra we have that Launi, etc, etc. Now you can write down. You remember a lot of them, so you write down. So all these dance forms, if you give performance in them, that will also be exempt. And last is theatre, but not the normal theatre, not the normal Shakespeare dramas. Theatre means the classical art, the folk or classical. These two words govern all these three. The classical theatre forms that we have, the storytelling. Okay, so if we organize any of these programs and we are the performers, we perform and we charge money, that will be exempt from GST, provided the money charged is less than or equal to 1,50,000. So if I am a tabla player, then who I am? Zakir Hussain, Farooq Hussain, and I play tabla, tak 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 tak, and I charge. I am a very famous one, so I charge 10 lakh rupees for one performance. Then it is taxable. If I charge anything more than 1,50,000 per performance, it will be taxable. If I charge 1 lakh, it is exempt. 1,46,000 exempt. 1,50,000 also exempt. But anything more than 1,50,000 taxable. Okay, and then there is one more restriction, that if I give this performance as a brand ambassador of some kind of goods or articles, say I'm a brand ambassador of some watch, Rado company has appointed me as brand ambassador, and I play tabla, I give a performance as a brand ambassador of that watch. So that watch company is advertising his product and they have organized a big program and they have called me as a performer, and I am associated with them as a brand ambassador. So whenever they organize programs, they call me, I go and perform, and it is done for the purpose of advertisement of their brand. In that case, the amount that I charge will be fully taxable, even if it is less than 1,50,000. Okay, so that is one exception, that if you are performing as a brand ambassador, then no exemption, then it is fully taxable. And it is given there, brand ambassador means a person engaged for promotion or marketing of a brand of goods, service or property, or actionable claim, event or endorsement of name, including a trade name, logo or house mark of any person. A lot of people do it, a lot of builders do it. In order to sell their plots or sell their flats, they organize big performances, call different people at their site. So they organize the program at the site itself where the buildings are getting constructed, and then after the performance is over, they promote their business. So I'm going there as a brand ambassador, so then it will be fully taxable. Okay, the next one, services by way of admission to museum, national park, wildlife sanctuary, tiger reserve or zoo. Very simple one, just have to remember the points. Museum, admission to means the tickets that we buy in order to enter a museum. So the tickets can be 100 rupees, 200 rupees or whatever, right? Secondly, national park, like we have got a lot of national parks in and around Nagpur. Kanha National Park, Bandhavgarh National Park, then Pench National Park, Tadoba National Park, Karandla National Park. We have got a lot of, Nagpur is called as the tiger center of India. So we have got a lot of tiger reserves and national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. So the famous ones are Kanha National Park, Bandhavgarh National Park. Then in north you have got that Jim Corbett National Park. In east you have got in the Assam and West Bengal, I'm not remembering the name. I have the habit of forgetting names. But it is there, you can search on the net. It irritates. Anyways, forget. We can't waste time on that. So all the national parks. Now you can remember national parks, tiger reserves, wildlife sanctuaries, and zoos. Zoos are the city-based zoos. Okay. So the tickets that we buy to enter any of these places is exempt from GST. The next one on the same lines is admission to, means against tickets. Protected monuments so declared under the Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act of 1958 or any of the state acts for the timing in force. Protected monuments. So whatever is a protected monument, if it is declared by the Archaeological Act, under the Archaeological Act as a protected monument, and the tourists come there, they purchase a ticket and they enter the monument and they see the monument, those tickets will be exempt from GST. Then next is 80, another interesting one, again training one. Services by way of training or coaching in recreational activities relating to arts or culture. Number one, art or culture. Art or culture will include dances and all, or sports. But for sports there is a condition that it should be by charitable entity registered under 12AA of Income Tax Act of 1961. But art and culture there is no restriction. So the coaching and training for arts and culture can be given by anyone. Given by any person including an individual. So what I'll do is I'll stop teaching CA now. I'll stop teaching tax and all, and I'll start my classes of dance. I'll start my dance academy, Farooq Haq Dance Academy. Teaching ballet. Now you must be laughing too, na? Can Farooq sir teach ballet dance? I'm not going to. I'm going to take CA classes only, but on paper, on the invoice, we will mention dance academy, and you guys will join a dance academy, okay? And pay 10,000 rupees or 12,000 rupees to me for dance, and I'll teach you CA. CA also makes you dance. Who else knows better than you? CA course makes everyone dance. Okay, serious. So that would be a tax avoidance measure. I hope this is not getting recorded. Don't tell it to anyone. And don't worry, I'm not going to do this, but just to remember, I'm giving an example. So what happens is that if I take dance classes, if I take guitar classes, here culture will include everything. Guitar, sitar, sarod, tabla, and dholak and whatnot. All are instruments. And any other kind of culture. And in arts it can be painting, it can be drawing, it can be sculpting, it can be so many things. Making cartoons is also art. So if I take art classes, painting classes or dance classes, culture classes, then my coaching, my training is fully exempt from GST. Okay? Given by anyone, any person. Next is sports. So if I start a sports academy, if I start a cricket coaching academy, cricket coaching, football coaching, and this coaching and that, all sports related coaching, then I will not be exempt. So if I start a summer coaching camp, a lot of people start these summer coaching camps in different sports, they are taxable. Because here exemption is given only if it is run by a charitable entity registered under 12AA of Income Tax Act. I don't know why, but it is mentioned there. If it is registered as a charitable entity, then only it will be exempt. If it is provided by any individual, it will be taxable. So if Farooq Haq as an individual starts a sport coaching class, And as I told you, I was a good bowler, so I can coach in bowling. I can coach in swimming. I am an excellent swimmer. Still, yes, I do. A lot of then I was good in tennis also, lawn tennis, table tennis, badminton. I played a lot of games, and that's the reason for having a good health. You should also play. You should also play. Every one of us should play a lot of games. It's the best way of staying fit, you know. So anyways, remember this point. If this sports is given by, right here, given by an individual, it will be taxable. Write it down, because this will come in the exam. And given by a charitable trust, then it will be exempt. Then let's go to next one, 81. Service by way of right of admission to means against the tickets. Right of admission means the tickets which are sold, which allows you to go and sit and watch. What is there now? Let's see. Circus. Long time I have not gone to a circus. Have you? Circuses have become obsolete nowadays because of advent of the technology. We watch all circus on mobile phone itself, so nobody goes there. So it's a dying industry, circus, but used to be very good. As kids we used to go to watch a lot of circuses. Gemini Circus and all the Russian artists used to come. So anyway, circus, dance, theatrical performances including drama or ballet. Now here theatre doesn't mean only the classical one, it can be any theatrical performance, including the normal theatres which happen in major cities, including drama or ballet. Then award functions, concerts, pageants. Pageants means like Miss India pageant is going on and you buy a ticket and go and watch. Musical performances, tabla and other people coming and giving performance, or any sporting event other than recognized sporting event or a recognized sporting event. So they mention it separately, but both are covered. So recognized sporting event is also covered, unrecognized is also covered. And planetarium, planetariums. In Mumbai you have got a very good planetarium, where the consideration for right of admission to the event or places as referred to in item A, B, C and D above, and there are only A, B, C and D, means for everyone, is less than or equal to 500 per person. Less than or equal to 500 per person. So if you go to a dance or a circus or a theatrical performance or a concert or a pageant or an award function can be the film awards and so on and so forth, or any sporting event, and if the amount is less than 500 per person, then it is exempt from GST, and if it is more than 500, then it is chargeable to GST. Okay. Another point is that two exclusions are there which you should remember at all times. One is cinema, the movie, that is not covered here. So the movie ticket, whether it is less than 500 or more than 500, it is always taxable. Secondly, amusement parks. Like you have got Appuhar in Delhi, the old one, and now so many other amusement parks are there. Amusement parks, then those water parks. Okay, these are always taxable, fully taxable. There is no exemption. So for cinema and amusement parks and water parks, there is no exemption. Whether the amount charged is less than 500 or more than 500, they will be always and fully taxable. Okay. And then the definition of recognized sporting event is given, of no use, because both are covered, recognized and unrecognized. So we don't have to go through the definition. Then 82 means services by way of right to admission again the tickets to the events organized under FIFA Under 17 World Cup of 2017. So when FIFA World Cup was organized and the tickets were sold, those tickets were also exempt from GST. But now that has gone, so it's over.